Hello, World History 1 students. This is Mr. Everton, and this is a video about Taoism. I'm going to be telling you what Taoism is and how it affects Chinese society. To start with, I want you to know that Taoism is pronounced Taoism with a D sound, and I want you to know that it can be spelled either of these ways. In this video, I'm spelling it with a T. It's still pronounced Taoism. You can also see it spelled with a D, and the reason why this happens is because we're using a Latin alphabet. We're using English letters to write sounds from Chinese which don't use these letters. So this is just sort of like different people's attempts to spell Chinese sounds, Chinese words in in English. You can spell Taoism, you can spell Tao with T-A-O or D-A-O, and either way is correct and it's fine. What is Taoism? Well, like Confucianism, it was created during the Warring States period. The Warring States period, if you hopefully remember from last video, was a period of chaos and violence and instability. Different kings and princes in China were fighting each other for control of China. And it was a period of great chaos and violence, and it was not a good time to be alive. And Confucius, let me back up. Confucius said that we could fix China through social order, through manners and politeness and respect and education. Taoism is a different belief system that has a different approach to solving the same problem. It was possibly founded by a man named Lao Tzu, who lived at about the same time as Confucius, maybe, we think. We have less evidence of Lao Tzu. Taoism stressed natural order, nature. And according to Taoism, everything in the world follows the Tao, or the way, which is an eternal natural order that human beings have no control over, and that human beings are controlled by the Tao, not the other way around. And that the key for Taoism is recognizing that nature and the universe are controlling things, not us, and that we need to go with the flow and not try to impose our own will on something that we're not going to be able to do in the first place. So, the major beliefs of Taoism: that human beings need to live in harmony with nature, that nature is like the example that we should follow, and that we need to respect nature and honor it and not try to change it to meet our own needs. Taoism teaches humility, forgetting about our own wants and desires, forgetting about things that are going to make us happy in the moment, forgetting about power and being in charge of other people and being famous, that none of that matters, and that we need to turn our back on that and live a simple life with very few possessions. Taoism focuses very heavily on simplicity and living with a minimum of stuff, like not going out and like buying lots of stuff to make you happy, living very simply with very few belongings. And that all of this should be part of a search for inner peace, that people need to, that when people accept the Tao and they live in harmony with nature and they live simply and humbly and they're not, full of themselves and not trying to like build themselves up and act like they're special, that they will feel more peaceful, that they will feel more in tune with the world around them, and that they will live a quieter, happier, better life. Taoism was really influential in Chinese art. You can see lots of examples of Taoist art. And if you look at this painting, this Taoist painting, you can see that, well, for one thing, there's a poem in the upper left-hand corner, which I don't have the translation of, sorry, but there's a lot of Taoist poetry. And you can see also that this is a painting that is very focused on nature, that the things that you notice right off in this painting are the mountains and the trees. Your eye might be drawn to this tiny little figure up on the mountain. This like little tiny person is relatively inconsequential in this painting. Doesn't really matter. You may not even notice that there is a house hiding behind the trees for, a while that you're looking at this. You might notice the nature and notice the person and not even realize that there's a house back over here. One final concept to talk about when we're talking about Taoism and Confucianism both is the idea of yin and yang. You might already be familiar with the symbol. This is the symbol of yin and yang, and it represents a balance of opposites. You can see that this symbol incorporates, it's a circle, half the circle is white, half the circle is black, and then there's like a little drop of white in the black circle and a little drop of black in the white circle, showing that the two things need each other. And there's yin and yang represent a variety of different opposites. Yang is the more masculine element, and yin is the more feminine. So yang represents fire, and yin represents water. Yang represents hot, and yin represents cold. Yang represents male, and yin represents female. Yang represents good, and yin represents bad. So all of these opposites are in balance with each other, and all of them exist because of the other, right? Like you can't experience happiness if you don't also know what it's like to be sad. You won't really know what heat means if you haven't felt cold before. So the idea here is that opposites need each other in order to exist, and that will be best off when they are in balance with each other. And this idea is important to both Taoism and Confucianism. There's opposites in both nature and in the social order, right? Some of those examples, like the sun and the moon, are an example of yin and yang in nature, whereas a husband and wife would be an example of yin and yang in society. So to summarize, today you learned about Taoism, which is a belief system that puts an emphasis on natural order and living a humble life, a life where a human being isn't, trying to build themselves up too much, living simply and peacefully. And we also talked about the concept of yin and yang, which is an important idea in both Confucianism and Taoism and represents a balance of opposites. Thanks very much for watching, and I will talk to you next time.